You are standing in a room that smells of stale coffee and disinfectant. Perhaps it is a hospital waiting room, or a funeral home, or just your own kitchen during a breakup. Someone across from you is falling apart. They are sobbing, their face twisted in genuine, raw agony. You watch them. You see the tears rolling down their cheeks. You understand, intellectually, that this is a moment of devastation. You know you should be crying. You know you should reach out and hold them. But inside, silence. Absolute, terrifying static. It feels as if you are watching a movie through a thick pane of soundproof glass. You wait for the swell of emotion, the tightening in your chest, the mirror reaction that proves you are human. But it doesn't come. You hand them a tissue. You nod your head. You say the right words, but you feel like an imposter in your own skin. You feel like a ghost haunting your own life, observing the drama of human existence without being able to touch it. And in that vacuum, a voice speaks in the back of your mind. It is cold and accusatory. It whispers, "What is wrong with you? Why are you so cold? Are you a monster?" You begin to panic, not because of the tragedy in front of you, but because of your lack of reaction to it. You worry that your capacity for love has atrophied, or worse, that it was never really there to begin with. This is the state of total detachment. And if you are listening to this, chances are you have felt this numbness, not just once, but as a recurring theme in your life. You have felt it at weddings, during arguments, and in the quiet moments when you should feel joy. But I am here to tell you something that might contradict everything you have been told about empathy and connection. You are not broken. You are not a sociopath. You are not empty. What you are experiencing is not a defect of the soul. It is a sophisticated, high-level defense mechanism. It is a superpower that has gone rogue. You have entered a state of strategic anesthesia. The tragedy is not that you feel nothing. The tragedy is that you do not know how to wield this detachment. You are drowning in the silence, rather than using it to float. If you can learn to control the dial on this emotional numbness, you gain access to a state of being that Carl Jung viewed as essential for the highest levels of consciousness. You move from being the numb victim to the zero-point observer. This is a state where you can stand in the center of a hurricane and remain untouched. Not because you don't care, but because you have learned how to observe without absorbing. You can become the rock that others cling to. But there is a trap, a very specific, dangerous trap that lies between your current numbness and that enlightened state. If you step into it, you risk permanent isolation. To avoid it, we must first understand why your mind built this wall. Carl Jung spent a lifetime mapping the dark, hidden corridors of the human psyche. He believed that the psyche is a self-regulating system, much like the body. When the body gets too hot, it sweats to cool down. When the psyche gets too hot, flooded with too much trauma, too much expectation, or the chaotic emotions of others, it engages a cooling system. It withdraws the libido, psychic energy, away from the external world and pulls it inward. Jung did not see this withdrawal as evil. He saw it as a necessary retreat into the inner citadel. When the world demands more than you can give, the only rational response is to close the gates. Modern neuroscience confirms this mechanism. When your brain perceives an emotional load that threatens to overwhelm your cognitive function, it initiates a chemical blockade, dampening activity in the limbic system to prevent a biological burnout. This is not you being heartless. This is your biology engaging an emotional firewall. Your system has detected that you are compassion bankrupt. You have spent more emotional currency than you have earned, and the bank is freezing your accounts to prevent total collapse. However, understanding the mechanics doesn't stop the guilt, does it? The guilt is the secondary infection. You feel bad, and then you feel bad about not feeling bad. This loop is what keeps you stuck. To break it, we need to look at this dynamic in action through a specific lens. Consider the case of Heinrich. Heinrich is not a villain. In fact, he is the person everyone relies on. He is a high-performing architect, a man of structure, logic, and precision. Growing up, Heinrich lived in a chaotic household where emotions were volatile weapons. His mother would scream, his father would weep, and the emotional temperature of the house would swing wildly from one hour to the next. Young Heinrich learned very quickly that to survive, he had to be the gray rock. If he showed no emotion, he gave them no fuel. If he became invisible, he became safe. Fast forward 30 years. Heinrich is successful. He is married, but his wife looks at him with lonely eyes. She tells him, "I feel like I'm living with a wall." When she cries, Heinrich analyzes the problem. He offers solutions. He fixes the leak in the roof. He pays the bills. He organizes the schedule. But he cannot offer her his fear, his joy, or his grief. He has become so good at the gray rock strategy that he has forgotten how to turn it off. He is trapped inside the fortress he built to protect himself. Perhaps you are like Heinrich. You do not have to be an architect. You might be a nurse, a student, or a parent, but you recognize the pattern. You learn that to feel is to bleed. So, you built the wall, and now, you don't know where the door is. Heinrich's story brings us to the edge of a terrifying realization. He didn't just wake up one day without feelings. It happened in stages, and it is vital, absolutely vital, that you identify which stage of detachment you are currently in, because the cure for one stage is poison for another. The first stage is what we call the flinch response. This is where it begins. You are physically present, but emotionally you have taken one step back. You find yourself checking your phone during intimate conversations. You start intellectualizing your feelings instead of feeling them. When someone asks how you are, you give a status report. Work is busy, the car needs repairs. You never say, "I feel frightened." You treat your life like a project to be managed, not a story to be lived. At this stage, you are still functional. People might even admire your stoicism. But notice what is happening. You are beginning to view your own emotions as data points rather than experiences. You are becoming a bureaucrat in your own mind. This is not a lack of feeling. This is strategic filtering. But if you stay here too long, the filter gets clogged. And that is when you slide into the second, much darker stage. The second stage is the gray zone. In this stage, the detachment is no longer a choice, it is a default setting. You wake up tired, regardless of how much you sleep. The things that used to bring you joy, music, food, hobbies, now taste like ash. You are not sad. Exactly. Sadness is an active emotion. It has energy. This is an absence. It is a heavy, dull gravity that pulls the color out of the world. In the gray zone, you start to fake it. You learn the choreography of emotion. You laugh when others laugh, not because something is funny, but because the social equation demands a variable called laughter. You furrow your brow when someone complains. You become a perfect mirror, reflecting what people want to see, while behind the mirror, the room is completely empty. This is where the danger of dissociative drift sets in. You are drifting so far away from the shore of your own humanity that you can no longer see the lights. You begin to feel like an alien anthropologist studying the human race, rather than a member of it. But here is the sharp reframe. This is not you dying. This is you hibernating. Your psyche has entered power-saving mode. Just as a laptop dims its screen and shuts down background apps when the battery is critical, your soul has dimmed its interface. You are not broken. You are critically depleted. You are trying to survive on 1% battery, and you are blaming yourself for not running high-performance applications. Before we move to the final and most paradoxical stage, I want you to stop. Right now, Stop analyzing. If you recognize this coldness in yourself, if you see your own face in Heinrich's reflection, you do not need to prove it to anyone. You do not need to apologize for it. You do not need to explain why you didn't cry at that funeral, or why you feel numb when your partner holds your hand. Just breathe and observe that fact. You are here. You are listening. That is enough. The very fact that you are worried about your coldness is the proof that you are still warm. A true sociopath does not worry about being a sociopath. A dead thing does not worry about being dead. The third stage is where the path splits. This is the stage of the void. For those who do not understand the mechanism, this stage looks like terminal nihilism. It is the feeling that nothing matters, that human connection is a biological trick, that love is just hormones, and that life is a meaningless accident. This is the shadow side of detachment. It is cold, cynical, and destructive. It is the fortress becoming a tomb. But, and this is the crucial pivot Jung wanted us to see, this exact same state, if approached with consciousness, is the gateway to the sage's distance. The void is not just empty, it is spacious. The reason you feel nothing is that you have detached from the petty, ego-driven dramas that consume 99% of people's lives. You have accidentally stumbled into a spiritual state, but you are judging it by the standards of the ego. The ego wants drama. The ego wants validation. The ego wants to be the star of the movie. When you detach, the ego starves. It screams, "We are dying. We feel nothing." But the deeper self, the part of you that Jung called the focal point of the psyche, is actually sitting in a state of profound peace. You are mistaking peace for emptiness because you are addicted to the noise of emotion. Think of it as the chrysalis. Inside the chrysalis, the caterpillar turns into soup. It dissolves completely. If the caterpillar had a consciousness, it would scream, "I am falling apart. I am dying." It would not know that this dissolution is the prerequisite for wings. You are in the soup. You are not losing your ability to feel. You are losing your compulsion to react. This distinction is the key to everything. Reaction is automatic. It is a knee-jerk kick when the doctor taps your tendon. Response is a choice. Detachment gives you the space between the stimulus and the response. So, how do we move from the gray zone of numbness to the sage's distance of empowered observation? How do we stop faking humanity and start experiencing a deeper form of it? The solution lies in a concept Jung hinted at, but which we must operationalize for the modern world. We must learn the art of voluntary reassociation. Most people try to force themselves to feel. They try to pry the doors of their heart open with a crowbar. They watch sad movies. They provoke arguments. They drink to lower their inhibitions, hoping to feel something. This is violent, and the psyche does not respond well to violence. It will only build the wall higher. The emotional firewall will upgrade its security if it feels attacked. Instead, we must use the side door method. You cannot demand that your emotions return to the front line. You have to invite them back to a safe house. You must prove to your own amygdala that it is safe to feel again. And you do this, not by diving into the deep end of trauma, but by dipping your toe into the shallow end of sensation. Jung often advised his patients to engage in active imagination or creative play. He wasn't telling them to become artists. He was telling them to bypass the rational mind. For the detached person, the rational mind is the jailer. It analyzes everything to death. Why am I crying? This makes no sense. What is the utility of this feeling? To bypass the jailer, you must engage with things that have no utility. You must waste time. You must stare at a tree not to analyze its species, but just to see the texture of the bark. You must listen to music not to improve your mood, but to hear the space between the notes. This brings us to the first practical protocol, sensory anchoring. When you are in a social situation and you feel the glass wall sliding into place, when you feel that familiar numbness, do not try to force an emotion. Do not fake a smile. Instead, shift your focus entirely to a physical sensation. Feel the weight of your feet on the floor. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin. Watch the way the light reflects off a glass of water. By focusing on the physical, you bypass the emotional firewall. You are telling your brain, we are not processing high-stakes emotional data right now. We are just processing neutral sensory data. This lowers the threat level, and paradoxically, when you stop trying to force the emotion and you ground yourself in the physical reality, the emotion often sneaks in through the back door. You might find that by simply watching the light, a feeling of subtle appreciation arises. It's not a tidal wave of joy, but it's a ripple, and for someone who has been frozen, ripples are enough. The second protocol is the compassionate witness. This requires a fundamental shift in how you speak to yourself. It is the mental shift from "I am numb" to "I am watching a numb person." When you are deep in the gray zone, you are identified with the numbness. You think, "I am cold." You treat the lack of emotion as your identity. But Jung would argue that you have merged your ego with a specific complex. You are mistaking the weather for the sky. You must change the pronoun. Instead of saying, "I am empty," say to yourself, "I notice that there is an emptiness present." This sounds like a trivial linguistic trick, but it creates a massive psychological result. By observing the coldness, you separate yourself from it. You are no longer the coldness. You are the consciousness observing the coldness. You are the scientist. The numbness is just the specimen on the table. When you observe it without judgment, without screaming at yourself to be different, you stop feeding it with your shame. Shame is the fuel that keeps the emotional firewall burning. The more you hate yourself for being numb, the more your brain perceives a threat, and the harder it locks the door. When you remove the shame, the system naturally begins to cool down. The wall begins to become porous again. You must understand that your detachment is likely a form of empathic overload protection. Highly sensitive people are the most likely to become totally detached. It seems contradictory, but it is simple physics. If a circuit carries too much voltage, the fuse blows. You blew a fuse because at some point in your history, you felt too much, not too little. Acknowledging this changes the narrative completely. You are not a cold person trying to learn warmth. You are a burning person who has learned to freeze. Your task is not to ignite a fire, but to slowly, safely thaw the ice. This thawing process leads to the third protocol, which requires patience you may feel you don't have. We call this calibrating for low-resolution emotions. Because you have been numb for so long, you are likely waiting for the Hollywood version of recovery. You are waiting for the weeping breakthrough, the screaming catharsis, or the tidal wave of ecstatic love. You expect the return of emotion to be loud. But real emotion, especially after a period of deep detachment, often arrives as a whisper. It comes as a low-resolution signal, a quiet sense of melancholy while driving to work, a gentle flicker of curiosity about a stranger, a moment of quiet contentment while drinking coffee. If you ignore these signals because they aren't loud enough, you miss the recovery. You are looking for a fireworks display, so you miss the sunrise. You must learn to value the subtle. In Jungian psychology, the self speaks in whispers, while the persona shouts. Your numbness has cleared the room of the shouting, giving you the rare opportunity to hear the whispers. If you can integrate these three protocols, sensory anchoring, the compassionate witness, and calibrating for low-resolution emotions, you begin the final ascent. You move toward the ultimate goal of Jungian development, individuation. This brings us to the integration of your shadow. Jung believed that we must not conquer our dark side, but integrate it. Your detachment, your ability to cut off,
is not a sin to be exercised. It is a tool to be mastered. The goal is not to become a person who is constantly overwhelmed by emotion. The goal is to become the container. The world is full of people who are drowning in their feelings. People who are reactive, chaotic, and consumed by the storms of the moment. They do not need another person drowning with them. They need a lifeguard. They need someone who can swim in the water without inhaling it. When you integrate your detachment, you transform into the archetype of the watcher. The watcher is the one who can hold space for the chaos of others without being destroyed by it. You stop being a wall that separates you from the world, and you start being a vessel that can hold the world. You become capable of compassionate non-attachment. This is the state where you care, deeply and truly, but the outcome does not own you. You can love someone without needing them to change to satisfy your ego. You can witness suffering and offer aid without bleeding out your own vitality. This is the quality of the great therapist, the sage, the wise elder. They are not cold, they are vast. Their detachment allows them to be the only stable presence in a room full of panic. Think of the sky. The sky is detached. It does not hold onto the clouds, the thunderstorms, or the hurricanes. It allows them all to pass through. It makes space for the lightning and the rain, but it is never damaged by them. The sky remains vast, open, and untouched. You have spent years trying to be the weather, trying to force the rain, trying to force the sun. It is time to stop. It is time to realize that you are the sky. Your journey is to transition from the frozen fortress where nothing gets in or out to the open sky where everything passes through, but nothing destroys you. This is the evolution of consciousness. The pain you have felt, the isolation of that glass wall, was the training ground. It was the pressure required to forge this capacity. You have been given a heavy burden, yes, but if you can lift it, if you can learn to carry it with grace, it becomes a lantern. So, the next time you are sitting across from someone, and you feel that familiar silence inside, do not judge it, do not fear it. Lean into it. Use it to create a space of absolute safety for yourself. And then, from that place of safety, open a small window. Let a little bit of the world back in. Not the whole storm, just a breeze. As you practice this, alternating between your safe detachment and small moments of connection, you will build a new kind of emotional system. One that is robust, flexible, and capable of enduring the tragedy of life without shutting down the beauty of it. You will find that you can stand in the fire without burning, and you can walk through the ice without freezing. This is the alchemy of the soul. This is the gold hidden in the lead of your numbness. Accept your nature. Trust your silence. It is not the end of your humanity. It is the beginning of a new, more durable form of love. See you in the next dimension.